the thing that I'm not certain that we have talked about is, what is it that is evolving?
Let's put it this way. The nervous system is the thing that is evolving, and the nervous system is supported by a skeleton of bones and muscles and tissue, etc., etc. Now, the nervous system is that thing that gives us the picture of our realities. That is, our realities, that reality which you see all around you, the flowers and the chairs and the microphones and the teacup, is given to us by our senses.
Yeah.
We don't see light which is beyond UV and beyond infrared. We hear only a limited scale of vibrations, like, for instance, we hear anywhere from 52 to 20,000 maximum. In other words, all our senses are limited. So, with these limited senses, we naturally are seeing through a very narrow kind of tube or very narrow slit in the total reality there is. Now, as you're evolving, what happens is that that slit opens up more and more and more. So you see more and more of that reality, and we assume that we see different realities. They're not very different realities, but rather a very extended, broad view of one very large reality.
It's my opinion that what they're trying to do is to shut down the process from even starting. Because once we have actually activated it, it's like once the switch goes on, there's no turning it back. Because it's like once one card falls, all the rest start to fall very soon afterwards.
And the American philosopher Vernon Howard said that a man who does not know what it means to be under psychic hypnosis is probably already under it.
They've limited Earth's consciousness by forcing low vibration souls in here for so long. While it's been going through denser and denser, Earth has little choice but to allow that to happen. It has to have life on it, has to nurture life, even if it's low vibration. So they knew how a planet would grow and ascend and descend. They knew all of this, and they're using that to their best of advantage.
You know, first of all, I don't care if you're a drug trafficker, okay? That's fine, okay? I mean, somebody's got to bring the drugs into this country. We've been, as a human race, using drugs for like 50,000 years. So the only reason to make drugs illegal is to put people in jail or making it illegal, raise it the price 6 times, okay? So if you want to bring drugs in the country and be an entrepreneur, hey, fine, okay? But the problem is there's 2 million people in prison here in this country for selling small amounts of what these guys are bringing in by the ton. And maybe most of those guys, like, are not the, the greatest character references people in the world, okay? You know what? They don't have moms. Yeah. And I know how my mom would feel if I got sent to prison. So imagine the untold human misery that this basic hypocrisy, puts us through. But the reason it's still there is because of the vast amounts of money to be made. If Prohibition had never ended, Al Capone's grandkids would rule the world today. If it hadn't been for Prohibition, organized crime, the mafia would have never turned into the machine it did. So here now, 40 years we've had this war on drugs, and there's no war on drugs. There's a war on some drugs. There's a war on drugs. There's 2 kinds of drugs: good drugs and bad drugs. Good drugs are our drugs. Bad drugs are yours. Okay? So when you hear about some Coast Guard admiral getting out there, our ship just came back to the Caribbean. We interdicted 12 tons of cocaine. That means 12 tons of cocaine that won't be on the streets to kill our children. Well, that's bullpucky. They haven't taken 12 tons of cocaine off the streets. They've taken 12 tons of somebody else's cocaine.
Right. The competition.
Because if you're at all aware of it, first of all, you asked me, in the heyday. No, this is the heyday, but you don't hear about it. there are illegal narcotics, cocaine, heroin, marijuana. It's a bigger market today than it was 20 years ago when they were talking about the cocaine cowboys down in Miami. But you don't hear about it because they corporatized the trade, and so they bring it in under official auspices and distribute it. And who gets busted are people who are look like independents, looking to make a dollar around the edges.
Right.
That's who gets busted. I was interested in where the money went. Well, because of these two planes that I've been following, American planes that got busted in the Yucatan, the Mexican Attorney General, not the DEA, not the U.S., Mexican Attorney General traced the money used to buy the planes and discovered that the money came from a pool of money that had bought 50 planes for Mexican drug cartels. And it all came from the same place. It came from Wachovia Bank. Remember them?
Sure.
They were America's fourth largest bank. So what happened because of these two planes is Wachovia Bank went out of business. They were forced to sell themselves for pennies on the dollar to Wells Fargo, which is not the cleanest bank in the world,
Right.
between you and me. The fourth largest bank was forced to sell itself to the second largest bank, and it paid a huge fine for laundering, and they admitted this, $378 billion worth of drug money in the past 7 years. Between 2001 and 2000, $378 billion.
Incredible.
Yeah, well, thank God they did. Our economy would collapse in a second without the stimulus of drug money. In fact, the guy, the head of the UN money laundering thing, said the only liquidity banks had in 2008 was drug money that was being, put in Mexico City branches of American banks, and so they had cash on hand. Otherwise, they'd have been out of that. It's an integral part of the economy.
Incredible.
But the hypocrisy of keeping it illegal, makes it hugely profitable for protected drug traffickers. And who these people are they're from families that like have buildings named after them at Harvard and Yale.
Thank you. This is a frightening picture, really, I have to tell you, for those almost demonic eyes of a crack cocaine addict. And those of you with discerning vision for pattern recognition will already see that there's half a face there with an eye and another figure, very sinister looking figure here, and smaller shapes around. She was the only one there against the backdrop. She was not there. Her parents were outside when I took that picture. No one could have stood there next to her. And I said, what? She said, well, I hear voices. They tell me to do antisocial things. They've told me to steal and murder my parents. And I won't go into it, but we tried to help her with the energy field input from the crystals. Thank you, Evie. Now here is the same girl, but this, I often associate crack cocaine where the brow chakra was completely open, the crown chakra was split in half, with also excessive kundalini stimulation. A lot of these young people can become hypersexual and not discerning. And here, at the back of the hips here, these are her slacks and these are the bottom of her legs, things. We got this circle of negative kundalini energy, which was a negative vortex, and attaching themselves to this energy, which is really, can be used for food, with other creatures that don't live quite in our realms, shall we say, and that's a conservative observation, sucking in on these energy forces. Now, of course, no one before, except clairvoyants, mystics of vision, perhaps for 1,000 years ago here in Glastonbury, and today, this tradition has been kept alive for this mystical observation of people, things, and sacred sites, which I will be going on to.
There is something, Terence, that a lot of people probably are not comfortable with, and that is somebody who, in his lifetime, has ingested as much LSD, this new drug of yours, DMT, and God knows what else, probably a lot, is not supposed to sound as articulate and as literate and as well-preserved mentally as you do. And many people who are allies in the war on drugs probably hate your guts.
Well, you wanted me to defend clarity? What can I say? In other words, first of all, my life of drug exploration and drug taking is, as you say, broad and deep, never reckless, always with a deep interest in analyzing each experience before moving on to the next one. None of the psychedelic drugs are drugs of addiction. That is a whole different category of drugs, which I am not particularly interested in defending. I do think it's one of the great tragedies of 20th century American society that we have created a generation gap or several and criminalized much of our middle class by taking substances which other cultures had no problem coming to terms with.
All right, let me stop you and ask you right there about that. You mentioned drugs of addiction, which you don't defend. Fine. Psychedelic drugs, Terence, why are they illegal?
They're illegal because the people who take them tend to question established cultural values. That's absolutely why they're illegal. No matter whether you're a Hasid or a Communist Party official in North Korea or a government or church official in Brazil, if you take psychedelics, you will ask yourself, does my life and what I do make sense?
Do you mean that, for example, a psychedelic experience could turn a communist against communism?
Absolutely, I think it could. I think in many cases it did. How could the idea of atheistic materialism maintain itself in the face of the counter-evidence of the psychedelic experience? What the psychedelic experience is saying, essentially, is that everything is connected in a way that is not woo-woo or emotional, but actually palpable, and therefore our actions have consequences. Now, most political agendas deny their consequences. So, for instance, Marxism had this theory of how human beings are that was so off base that eventually it had to be pitched out. Consumer capitalism has a theory of human beings and what constitutes their happiness that looks pretty hollow from the point of view of the psychedelic experience. I think, postmodern ideologies, Marxism, consumerism, so forth and so on, have based all their planning on an assumption of the absence of spirit. And in fact, this is not true. There is a spiritual dimension to humanness that cannot be denied. Now, it can certainly be distorted, and that's another side of things. But I think the search for psychedelic experiences represents a genuine religious impulse, especially when pursued at the dose levels I recommend. This is not this is not party recreational stuff. The phrase recreational drugs is an effort to trivialize this, and I think for one reason, I don't think the government is ready for a full airing of the constitutional contradictions that are contained in suppressing people's genuine wish to use psychedelic substances for genuine purposes of religious because I take psychedelics so seriously, I can't imagine them ever being really legal unless there's a total social transformation, because my analysis of it is the reason everybody from a Marxist state to a Christian oligarchy to a high-tech industrial democracy can get together and agree that psychedelics are a terrible, terrible thing is because the social effect of psychedelics being taken by large numbers of people is a kind of deconditioning from the cultural myths, whatever they are. It's no knock on any given society. It's just that if people start taking psychedelics, they start questioning what they've been told about reality. And culture is in the business of keeping you inside a set of predetermined answers to those questions.
Well, based on that, then, adherence, perhaps legalization day is 2012.
Well, there you go, Art. There's an apocalypse that would shake our world and leave the heavens intact.
That day that drug war ends.
Okay, next caller, you're on your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, my name is Robert and I'm from Holland.
Hi, Robert from Holland. Could you speak up a little bit? It's hard to hear you.
A friend of mine advised me to contact you because you had some abilities to see into past lives and stuff like that.
Yes.
I was just curious, and I was just, look for a way to connect to you and see what we can work out with this.
Okay. Have you ever heard me do these before? Is this your first time?
My first time.
First time. Did you hear me do any other previous readings today, or you just call it?
Just heard a little bit of the previous call you had, but that was it.
Okay. What I need you to do is tell me your first 10 minutes of the day when you woke up, from the moment that you rubbed your eyes till you got out of your bed, and compact that 10 minutes to 40 seconds and say it out loud, and I'll tune into your dream energies.
All right. The first 10 minutes when I woke up, I remembered an experience I had last night, because last night I smoked DMT.
Okay.
And it brought me back to source consciousness, and it showed me a lot of layers.
All right, you don't need to say anymore. I've tuned into you. Actually, I dreamed you last night.
Okay.
When you enter the DMT world, you enter the shamanic world, you had gone to the North Pole, and in the North Pole, the spiritual experiences you were looking for is you were looking to unite to the dreamtime mind of Earth Mother, and the DMT was your gateway to that. As you began to connect to that experience, you began to go through the cycling death of life, death, and rebirth with the shaman within. You've asked me to look at your past lives. Well, right now, your past lives go very, very, very far back. You are a very ancient and a very old soul. So old that you were here before the forces of domination and control. You were here before the 12 teleportations of our world. You were here at the very founding of Earth Mother's soul. So you know, the day that this planet was formed, you were here as the first Adamidic life was part of the very first soul group. So you're extremely old and extremely connected to Earth. What is now cycling through you is the process of being the shaman or being the human, the process of being the whale or being the shaman, the process of being the whale, shaman, human, dreamtime hybrid that you are now. You're connected to that of the whales and the record keepers of this world. Your very voice connects to the Akashic records of Earth because you are linked to her as part of a record keeper. You have shared the prayer pipe of inner peace with many forms of Earth's life forms. But now you're coming to this time where the inner peace is not sought for you. It is not interactive with you, and you are acquiring to need chemicals and additional stimulus to enter this peace, because the very ground you're on right now is polarized in a way that is not bringing you the Earth Mother's energy. The ground itself is asking you to find your cycle and hour of power so you may claim your soul right, so you may understand the illumination that's coming to you from this world. As I look deeper and deeper into your soul, I come to that of the time just before Lemuria. As the very first people were bearing the very first civilization of Lemuria, you stepped out of the shadows as part of a human and said, there is a great forefront for us, a great understanding and clarity for us as a people. We shall call ourselves men of Earth, women of Earth. So you were one of the first voices said, we are children of Earth. And this message has resonated with thousands and millions of people that began the process of understanding the Lemurian world, its very rise and fall. So what's understanding for you now is the person that is here now, without the chemical, needs to go through what's called the ritual of joy, in which you empower your soul with the power of the laughter, the power of the soul, the power of the smile, connected to your heart space, and we understand that this hour of power is how you claim your honor. It's how you seek the vision quest. It's how you find your soul purpose. Because right now you're searching for the soul purpose over and over and over and over again. And it's not within your past lives to find it. It is within the present life. You have been planning this lifetime for a very long time. There are skills that you must take time to learn so you may manifest the hour of power and have the actual skill of vision. Right now your third eye is slightly blurred from the effects of what you had yesterday, but you must also understand that this blurry third eye is allowing you to see into the fourth dimension. Are you following this?
Yeah.
The fourth dimension is now asking you, the person that is here now, to understand it, to create with it, to co-create with it. The visions within your mind that you had last night are sacred geometric patterns that are linked to your first spirit, and what you must do is begin to draw these. Are you capable of drawing?
I'm a little bit capable of drawing, not that good, but...
Well, I think you need to take a protractor and start drawing circles within circles. Learn how to draw a Metatron's cube.
Yeah, okay.
Learn how to paint a Metatron's cube. You need to take that which is the experience of the DMT and transfer it to your soul's essence so that your brain may have the imprint upon it. That imprint upon it is something you must understand as your hand, your eye, and your third eye coordinate to the actual expression of the sacred geometry.
Yes.
There are a series of other off-world species that are around you right now. You have had numerous UFO experiences and have been abducted several dozen times in your lifetime. They have been using your semen to create a new life force upon another world so that another race may not die. So you understand that you are here upon the Rainbow Passage right now to make sure that others do not die. Are you aware of this?
Yeah.
You wish to share any experiences that you've had?
Experience in the sense of what experience are you asking me about?
What do you wish to share?
What do you wish to share?
It's up to you. You are in a point of free will right now.
Yeah, I know. We're in a very special time at the moment, and I think everyone in this world has his own special task to do, and I think the most important task for everybody here now is to look into your fears, you know, just to see what's keeping you from connecting to your source, because a lot of people are still searching for something they already have within them, you know, and they're thinking about it and they're searching for it, but it's already there. And
you have found this spark in your soul, and you have understand that you have found this vision. And now what we are the spirits of the infinite force that is speaking to you now are asking you to transfer this vision onto artistic form so it may be shared with others. That artistic form will have fourth dimensional energy within it, and it will connect to others psychically. You will be a psychic artist and will be able to heal people with just your art. One will be a form of understanding that of the depressions of the old. Others will help people get into the great central understanding of the central sun. It is now for you to take up the art of sacred geometry and take it deeper than your fourth dimensional soul. Literally, it is to you to take your third eye vision and put it to paper or to digital document to begin to share.
Yeah, all right. I think it's time for me to go drawing.
That's right.
All right.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I think a lot of what you said is affirmation for something I already knew, but I couldn't put my finger on it, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And it's an affirmation, so thank you for your information.
So it's really as if the kids stole the car keys to the convertible and have been out, you know,
Yes.
partying and creating.
I call them the kids on the coke bench.
Okay, I gotcha.
In the beginning there.
Yeah, but they're very powerful kids.
Yes.
And as a result, they have locked down the incarnational process, which no longer allows anyone to graduate, or does it allow new beings to come in?
Only if they're lower vibrational.
Lower vibrational. So that's why we see the degradation of everything. And of course, the imitation of and the reversal of esoteric symbols that are positive get reversed and duplicated in a false way or in a fake way, because they can't really create true
reality.
Right. They can't. So they can only duplicate it, fake it, twist it around, and turn it backwards and
confuse you.
Yeah.
Take your memory away.
Yeah. Add more fine print to your contract to say, not allow you to know that you're actually making an agreement when through unconsciousness we are allowing them to do certain things. And we've been unconscious for so long and enslaved, in a sense, enslaved.
Yep.
Our free will has been, shall we say, usurped. That we've forgotten that we have free will. So when we start talking about free will as if we have it, we both have it and we do not have it. We have to regain it. We have to understand what we had and don't have in order to take back what we truly have authentically and can claim as our own. Okay. How long have the archons been affecting in the play? If this goes back 52 million years.
Well, 490,000 years ago is essentially when the galactic expansion machine was set up so that they could resolve the 66 prime lines of drama.
Okay.
They came in about 385,000 years ago. And that's after the neutral guys were kicked out. They needed a system of entities that had the God mind but were still in control. That there was a sentient still control of them, and the God mind inside those archons would never know it. Many of the archons were just high vibrational beings that were captured in other domination and control planets, taken to technological centers, had their bodies removed, their vibration rapidly raised with energy until they're experiencing the unity consciousness of an artificial intelligence that's telling them they're God. Then they're compacted into a little ball of energy and shot across space, smack into our astral realm, and are force incarnated.
Wow.
They then wake up at 2 years of age and say, I'm a god.
Wow.
And then they go out and become a god, and when they finally lose their physical body, they are brought into the astral world and they say, I'm a god. And then the system of domination and control puts them into the court system that allows them to stamp your immigration.
Wow.
And that's where they insert fine print into your contracts. To get into Earth, there's a line of people waiting, quite literally a line. And there's a council of 52 archons over there that read your spiritual contracts and get to put fine print in there, because they're looking at who you're looking for, your mother, your father, your daughters, who's your first grade teacher, who's your first love, who's your first divorce, who's your 11th divorce, so on.
Right.
And they're putting fine print in there to give you negative habit patterns so you never get into your mind and claim your sovereignty.
Right, so they're giving you patterns like addictions and the whole...
Bad relationships, so on, the whole gamut.
Dysfunctional parents, pedophilia, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Okay.
It also seems that my practice, of course, there's been a lot of distractions, but my practice seems to get started and then slack off. And a lot in my life has been like that. And when I heard you talking with people, because every time you do consultations with people over the phone, I feel like it's for all of us, and I always it's like you're speaking to me. And you mentioned that sometimes we don't make progress because of the light is not supposed to be. In other words, we don't want to shine too bright, and somehow our spirit guides are keeping us kind of dampered down. But you said that so that we're not discovered or vulnerable, but now that things are changing.
Yes, what I'm referring to is people that come under broken spirit contract rules. They've been able to bypass the rules set up by the incarnation grid of the forces of domination and control. So what they do is they know they will be noticed as a bright energetic creature that can be drained of energy. So what they do is they screw up their wiring job. So when a creature of domination and control comes around, they don't see this bright shining light of love and harmony and healing. They see this spaghetti mess of a wiring job and then put you on their list and go on to someone else who's more of a tasty morsel that they can pass on to their masters.
Yeah, when I read the Chuang-Tzu about the useless tree metaphor,
yep,
it kind of resonated.
It is exactly that. And
yeah,
it's been around. Spirits have been planning their lives like that for a long time. And they do that so that more powerful soul groups can come in and get an anchor in this reality so they can have more and more lifetimes. And as the true energy of the light and soul comes through, the darkness is forced to have less incarnations here and less incarnations here, until finally it's pushed out and the majority expresses its heart love and begins to the process of transparent understanding of their species history.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Right now there's a whole lot of energy that's going through you. And there's a reason why you're actually going through what's called a crown chakra rewiring. The spirit that is you that came in here came with a specific set of wiring so that it wouldn't be noticed by the powers of domination and control. So you have to understand you've been in a cloaking mode for these conversations, for these, okay? So you're going through a rewiring process here. You were not allowing the forces of domination and control to literally see your spirit. So you wired your crown chakra so whenever anything would remote psychically view you, it would see this spaghetti mess of wiring and then assume you were a person that didn't plan your lifetime correctly and that it could come back and feed on you later at another time. Well, now your energies have changed. You've experienced the December the 21st in a relatively neutral perspective and you've moved on, and now as you're beginning this awakening process, your spirit guides are coming to you in dream time, and they're taking you out of your dreams into an education place where you have the rest of your soul group is being rewired at the exact same time. You're all using the same wiring plan. You're a telepathic soul group who came to this world from a moon of Alcyon called No Nabosh, and you're like a school of fish species. It's a water world that you come from, and it's more like a tarpon. And there's not a food chain on this world. There's plenty of plankton for everything to eat. Though some species will butt heads and will like ram into each other to protect territory, but they don't actually fight or kill each other. So killing is a completely foreign concept to your soul. You chose to come here at the point when the whales were being hunted the most and they were giving a call out for new ocean spirits to return to Earth and to keep the waters bound to Earth's soul. So you came here as what's called a water reaver. All right, you close to water spirits?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, you're still awakening to these energies. I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to be the great psychic within, you need water around you. You need running water. If you have none in your area, you should make water features. That is what's going to get your spirit into the highest gear. It's going to be allowed to commune to your higher soul so you can understand that you came into this lifetime with a free set of karma, and that's because you came in with the screwed up illusionary wiring that was hiding you. And as you go through this rewiring process, you're going to connect to sea-based animals and mammals. You're going to naturally be able to telepathically talk to them.
Okay.
Okay. Well, what do you do with that information? You're still in the state of, oh my, what do I do? I'm awakening. Well, it means that you have to explore yourself. It means you have to take time to learn what it is, the things about the ocean, be reconnected to that fuel, that energy, that searcher within that understands every advance into life is about understanding the old person, why the old person was led astray or led to the right place. What can be your goals for the future? How can you look back on the self with 20/20 vision and know that a future version of you is planting seeds so the present version of you will have crops to eat? Okay, that's the dreamer inside of you. You're going to have to connect to your dreams again. You're going to have to consciously tell your dream time before you go to sleep, I wish to remember more of my dreams. I wish to be more a part of this.
Okay.
Is this making sense to you?
Okay. And is there is it something that's going to be happening between now and, say, the fall?
This is literally at your free will. You can initiate this anytime. You could have actually initiated it in early January, but you just hadn't met enough of your old soul group yet. What I'm thinking is that somehow maybe you crossed someone on a street or on a highway, and that person was a part of your soul group, and it was one of those coinkydink synchronistic moments that you two were able to grok energy even though you never knew each other. And it kind of both like turned the keys inside yourself, and you both will begin your awakening process. And there are others that are in your soul group that are beginning your awakening process, and they're going to naturally migrate towards you, and it'll be you, the person that has free will, to recognize that they're part of your soul group because they're so akin to everything that is you. They have so many relations to you, the subjects they like, the ways they study, the way they live. Be very similar to you.
Okay. And then on a real life plain issue, do you see, in other words, I'm actually in the process of securing new employment?
There is a new job there. And I sense some traveling with that job. Maybe a little bit of a relocation. When I say that as you may be driving 60 miles one way, and what they're saying is if there's a job that has you drive 60 miles one way, that's universe telling you that 60-mile trip is your opportunity to turn off the world and turn on the silence when you're driving. They're really telling you need to have zero sound during your day at some point. There's always too much noise around you.
Okay.
I felt as if I've really been reaching out for many years, and nobody shows up.
Well, that's the thing. You're not reaching into the right place. You're not allowing yourself to see the 7 layers beyond the only single layer that you see. And that's because much of your crown chakra was protected, because the Arcturians, when they come in this world, are like shining beacons of light for the forces of domination and control. So once they find them, they take them, they turn them into super soldiers, or they kill them, or they turn them into breeding groups. So
I've been very fortunate here because in some way I've been totally protected. I'm kind of out of the loop, like as if they couldn't find me.
Right. You're an anchor spirit dug deep into the earth.
Gotcha.
It all relates. As an anchor spirit, you are deeply related to Earth. That means the previous lifetimes you lived here as the weather warrior, as the weather wizard. That just shows how deep your Earth connection is. So when you left, you didn't tell the world your story, which means that the surface world of surface intelligence wasn't prepared for when you came back. So you have a story of spirit to tell, but you got to tell it to yourself first.
I gotcha. Well, this is a beautiful time you're offering me here, because that's my question. It's like I've been realizing that I call it faith, but I'm not looking for faith. I'm looking for the story.
Right.
To connect me to myself.
Right. And that's why I do this 8 hours a week, because I know that every drop I change with each person that I help, that it changes the 7 future generations of the people that are there. I've lived and co-lived and existed in the South Pole and the North Pole at the same time, as a separated dream time and as a unified dream time. So I thoroughly understand the process that people are going through here, and it's just a matter of me having the time to literally translate it to the specific message that person needs. Like you just said, you needed to hear the story, not the faith part behind it. Can you talk more about the rewiring process of energy, spirit energy process? All right, rewiring. You have a crown chakra, and you have a left brain and a right brain, and you have a heart chakra. The heart chakra and the brain are interlinked through the spine. So when you go through a wiring process, they go through the brain. That's your camouflage energy of your outer aura. Often your heart and your mind are not in league. And when they are rewiring you, they're getting your heart and your mind in league, in concert, in co-creation motion, so that you're working with all of your being instead of half your being or a third of your being. So the rewiring process is literally connecting your mind to your heart to your root chakra, and reconnecting all 7 of your chakras to the 36 chakras that are above and below your 7 basic chakras. So that's really, really what it is.
So the first set of multidimensional beings that had incarnated here became 40% of our breeding population. 15 beings equaled 40% of humanity. At that point, it was nearly 70 billion people on this world. That's a lot of them. Wow. That's how they got soul family status with everyone. Wow. They then brought in dimensional technology that was meant for vessels only and installed it on Earth so that they could take one continent out of a timeline and put it back into a deep, distant timeline, one by one by one by one by one, so they can get to the point to create what's called the first species of Earth. There are 72 first species of Earth, because every time Earth was recaptured, they tried to re-erase the timelines. But once you have sentience that's born, you can't erase the sentience, and Earth has to adopt that as a first species.
Huh.
So the Time Wars are all about creating the first sentience. Well, we have 72 first species now.
Wow.
And as many as 6,000 different refugee species who've come to live on our world because their worlds are being decimated or destroyed.
Wow. So from this period, we have a time when the incarnational process has been thoroughly corrupted, and nobody's graduating, and then they're deciding who comes in and who goes, and they're adding fine print to the soul contract. They're also booting incoming souls that are reincarnating in from where they had probably planned out. Oh, I've got this family and I'm going to do this, and then at the last second they're booted over to a dysfunctional family where their life lessons are, pedophilia and drug use and slavery and so on and so forth. Yep. Okay. Bait and switch, and so that's been going on for
a long time.
And now we have super soldiers and targeted individuals. It's just it's ramping up, and it's like a spiritual being eating itself.
Yep,
cannibals, and nobody wins in that sense.
Nope. That's why the Prime Creator did the timeout. That's why he did the audit. That's why he's doing the walk-ins.
Well, once you get under Tara Hill and you start getting into the deep tunnel systems, these are multidimensional tunnels. You can travel to other worlds via these tunnels. These tunnels were created by the master builders, knowing that their world would be under invasion, physical reality invasion, reality itself altering effects, and that these tunnels had to be immune to tens of millions of types of different warfares that hadn't even been conceived yet. And that's why Earth became Fortress Earth. And that's why this system of domination control has reached its peak now, because we kept fortifying and fortifying and fortifying it because of the invasions that we kept seeing coming and coming and coming by our far-started oracles that over 60 million years and 40 million years ago. Ireland is where the far-sighted oracles met in the different sacred spaces so that they could see what soul shards needed to be inside the soul vaults so that the machine itself could start like an engine, like turning on a key and the engine goes dun dun dun, and it starts going. And those soul shards inside there aren't the fuel, they're the cargo until the end. We, the surface, are the fuel, manifesting, co-creating beings in a reality set of rules, trying to function with 2 layers of sacred geometry grids, one the natural sacred geometry Earth grid, and the other the false Masonic sacred geometry grid that was created over many hundreds of thousands of years.
Because again, I don't believe there's anything wrong with the world that we're living in. That world could be a beautiful world if we just made some corrections. We don't have to get off the grid necessarily and run to Timbuktu and reinvent the wheel. Yeah. We've already invented it. But it's just corrupt because there's no shamanic filter to get rid of the toxic people who are now in but don't get me wrong, the people who are at the helm of the world organization structure, governmental, societal ship are not the creators of that ship. The creators of society's great things are geniuses. Right? These are the fine, the brains, the scientific and artistic and musical geniuses are the ones who create it. Then we use it.
Sure.
In the very the way Nietzsche exposed. Then it's taken over by, the middleman sort of thing. So you don't look at the genius of, making the big ships that go on the high seas, or the planes that fly in the air. There's nothing wrong with any of that.
No.
It's just that, man has become, he's lost the direction. He's become very apathetic.
Yeah, I have said this many times. Less than 15% of those guys will fight to the end. Yeah. And those are the ones who have to take power of their cold dead hand, because they're the characters in this dramatic story that chose to be the ones at the end.
Yeah.
And their legacy and teaching will teach trillions of other beings who are on the verge of being that being at the end, saying, you know what? I don't want that in my Akashic history of being that controlled.
I'll end by giving you a vision that I heard about 3 or 4 years ago by a very wise woman, a seeress, who was asked to give a vision of what she saw as the future of psychedelic drugs in our society. And she said that what she saw was that these kinds of plants, she always referred to plants, have been used since the most ancient times all over the world by people to be able to communicate with spirit, to be closer to spirit and live in a closeness to spirit and nature. And as that has not happened, as they've come away from that and tried to use these plants for other things or in a reckless way, then the plants, the intelligence of the plant itself has withdrawn. That means they've become inaccessible. That means, for example, they've become forgotten, like the mushrooms. The sacred mushroom was completely forgotten for 400 years until Watson and Maria Sabina rediscovered it. The mysteries of Eleusis were completely forgotten. What was the really inherent, the sacred potion that was involved in it was forgotten until Hoffman rediscovered it. And another way that these things become inaccessible is by being made illegal. So if there are people, and I don't know that there'll be ever a large majority of people who will want to use these kinds of plants to expand their consciousness, but those that do will find their way to them and take responsibility for their own health and their own way of life and their own consciousness, and try to live lives that are sane and decent and acknowledge and respect the integrity of all other life forms on this earth. I wish I had some of that stuff.
Well, I was surprised to hear McLuhan invoked so many times today, and I will do it again. McLuhan had an idea of what he called the global village, and the global village is coming to be. This is what the crisis that is being presented to us as a crisis in communism is. It isn't a crisis for communism. Communism is going first. But what it is the death knell for centralized structure, for centralized If you think what we've been through in the past year is something, wait till you see what's on the agenda. And I don't mean great CNN feeds from Moscow as the Soviet Union turns into 15 independent republics. I mean what's going to happen here. Because what is so terrifying about Gorbachev from the point of view of the powers that be is that he models a leader who can say, we did it wrong. Baker was on one of the talk shows after one of these "we did it wrong" statements by Gorbachev, and they said to him, well, under what circumstances would an official of the United States government admit a mistake? And he said, well, you don't understand. You see, we have a collective decision-making apparatus, and hence, we don't make mistakes. You see? So I think that, to return to McLuhan for a moment, what's happening is, as Yeats said in his poem, the center does not hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world, but as fans of chaos, we should know that this mere anarchy is the incarnation of our goddess Discordia, who is going to pull down the hunky structure that is oppressing everybody. What I see happening, and it was touched upon by others here, is this intensification of local identification, bioregionalism, awareness of your immediate place, and then no hierarchical structure or identification until you reach the planetary level. I live in Sonoma County, and I am a citizen of Earth. I recognize no intermediate structures except when I have to. So I agree with Tim. I cheer on the people who present the protocols and plead their cases before these great-based medical boards. But in my opinion, you just circumvent all that. You go around it. It's irrelevant. History has these dominator types by the balls. You know, history is a psychedelic experience. It's the collective unfolding of the dream of our species in space and time. We are at the apex. This is the peak. This is the second hour of the trip. We're going over the top.